Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. The SNP manifesto was published yesterday and I had a good read of it and I picked up on a few things. I've done a couple of videos about it. There's something that's not in there that I didn't pick up that wasn't in there. Fortunately, someone else has. This comes from a trade group. It's called The Negotiator, is the website. And it deals with all things rental, house rental, property rental. And they've picked up on something very weird. And like I say, I don't know how I missed it, and I've not seen this anywhere else. This is the only place that I've seen this particular sort of bit of news, really. And that is, when reading through the SNP manifesto, nowhere in it does it talk about a rent cap. Now, the SNP have been pushing this for some time now, and yet all of a sudden, poof, not in the manifesto. Why? Is it that they've simply forgotten to put it in? Or have they decided that they know it's so bad they don't want to highlight it by putting it in? Or, and I do hope the last one, have they realised it's so bad that they're abandoning it? We'll never know, because they probably won't answer the question, will they? But we'll take a look at this to see what's going on and why the SNP seem to have abandoned the rent cap. Here goes. So to say, this is just one of those sort of odd sources that no one ever really looks at outside of trade. But startlingly, they're right, and no one in the mainstream media has picked up on it yet. And that also seems very weird. But it is there. The SNP flip-flops as it abandons blanket rent cap within the manifesto. Now, they have previously said they're very encouraged to bring in the rent cap. They want to help renters and they want to push this. And I and many others have said what a terrible idea it is, because rent caps have failed every time they've been attempted. So how come they've gone from, yes, it's a brilliant, genius idea, to, oh no, let's just not mention it. And like I say, they're either not mentioning it because, well, I suppose there's another one. They've completely forgotten, basically. That's number one. Number two, they've looked at it and realised it's unimportant, not unimportant, unpopular. Or three, they don't like it, as I said in the header. But it is odd, isn't it? And I think it's very odd that it takes someone from this particular group, the negotiator group, whoever they are, to have picked up on this. No one else has. Well done to them for picking up on an important news story. I'm just going to move this across a bit because it's gone a bit to the left. There we go. A bit to the right. Move it to the left. There we go. So, the SNP has left a blanket rent controls out of its general election manifesto, despite claiming a national rent cap helped tackle the cost of living crisis. Of course, they can claim that, but it did no such thing. And indeed, they're now paying the price with having the highest rental increases in Britain because they weren't allowed to grow organically. And now they're having to make up that shortfall. First Minister John Swinney, who leads the SNP, unveiled the manifesto with a promise to reintroduce a simplified Help to Buy ISA scheme for first-time buyers. Again, and I said this in the previous one, this is for an independent Scotland because he does not have the authority to bring in a Help to Buy ISA scheme. That is a reserved matter, and that's at Westminster. So this manifesto isn't a manifesto for Scotland, it's a manifesto for an independent Scotland. So what's the point? Save it all up and put it out when you're doing, the next Indie Ref in about 40 years' time. His two predecessors, Humza Yousaf and Nicola Sturgeon, had supported a rent cap that was introduced under the Cost of Living Tenant Protection Scotland Act 2022. It meant that rents for private tenancies could only increase by 3%, with Holyrood later agreeing a 6-month extension until March of this year, which is now finally gone, and so the rents are going up like rockets. Instead of a universal rent cap, the SNP is planning to give Scottish ministers the power to introduce rent control areas. The Housing Scotland Bill would also require local authorities to assess rent conditions in their area at least once every 5 years. Basically, what they're saying is, hey, councils, if you want to limit rent controls, you can do that. You can have the power. But it isn't the blanket one that they were originally talking about. But here's the other thing. You can guarantee councils will put rent controls on. And the moment they put rent controls on, they will see how bad it is, as they will suddenly have a huge deluge of homeless people as landlords say, I've had enough of this shit, I'm selling up, I'm getting out of the sector, and I'm just going to invest my money in the stock market and get a return there. 6-7%, who knows, maybe more. Depends on how good you are, I suppose. But you should easy get 5-6% return on the stock market. So why would you go all the trouble of having these? Anyway, Nathan Emerson, CEO of Property Mark, says there must be an extreme focus on reversing Scotland's housing emergency. There is only one way of dealing with a housing emergency and with unaffordability of homes and a shortage of homes. And that, dear hearts, is build. You must build houses. But nobody is going to build if there's no return on investment. End of story. Get rid of rent controls. Let the rents go up organically every year, and investors will come in and build. And the more they build, the better. It's a shame that the SNP can't see this, unless of course they can, but they don't want to. I still maintain that a lot of the things that are happening isn't stupidity, it's deliberate, because they want to create misery so they can point to Westminster. Honestly do. Timothy Douglas, Property Mark's head of policy and campaign, says the proposals in the bill will cause confusion. The bill does very little to increase the supply of private rented homes. It won't increase the supply at all, and only offers rent control as the solution for affordability, but it won't be once the landlords sell up. Rent levels are high because there are too many people who have to rent and not enough homes available, and that is it. It is a function of supply and demand, and here's the problem. Scotland's SNP government wants to bring more people into Scotland. Tell me, where are they going to house them? You think the problem's bad now? It's only going to get worse, and their policies are driving house builders and investors away from Scotland. This is the ultimate stupidity of it, and they must know this. They must have been told this, and that's why I maintain it must be deliberate policy. But it is nice to see that somebody's picked up on the fact that they're abandoning their blanket rent controls. Excellent. They kept that quiet, didn't they? Coming up. So all the BS that they've been saying about how good rent control is. Oh, look how we've made things affordable. Oh, see how rent control has helped people. And now it's coming back to bite them, as nobody's building, nobody's investing. Why would you invest if part of your investment for these rental properties is to have an increasing rent so you can recoup the cost of investment and make a return on that investment? Then all of a sudden you're told, no, instead of that return on investment coming after, say, 6 or 7 years, it's now going to take you 30, 40 years. You just go, nah, and go and invest elsewhere. And that's exactly what's happened. And some of the biggest investors, of course, are the pension companies. They're the ones with the billions sitting there. So they give these house builders and that, say, oh, no, we'll set this and build do this. And somebody says, oh, I'd like to build this here and we can put these up as rental properties, help them out. Okay, then, what's the return on investment? Oh, we reckon we can make 9%, blah, blah, blah. And they go, oh, yeah, okay, we'll make the investment. But if they're told, oh, well, it's about a 1% investment, return on investment, they're going to go, nah. Simple as that. Nobody's investing. Nobody's building. The SNP are either inept, fiscally stupid, or deliberately harmful. It's there's no other way of describing it. I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video, and well done to the people of The Negotiator for picking up that point. Bye.